government launching a new electric vehicle policy to lower customs duty on imports of EVs to India. Now, India aims to be a manufacturing destination for EV. The new policy mandates global companies to invest a minimum of 4,150 crore rupees in the country. The companies will be allowed to import 8,000 EVs in a year at a lower import duty of up to 15% on cars costing $35,000 and above in the first 3 years. The policy will allow them to set up shop in India for 3 years for local manufacturing of EVs with at least 25% components sourced locally from India. Now, India currently levies, remember, a tax of 70 to 100% on import of cars depending on their value. To talk about the new EV policy and India's ambition to become a EV maker, joining us on the show is Sai Giridhar. He's the Secretary of FADA. Sai, thank you very much for taking time out. Explain to us what this policy means. So, for example, likes of Tesla, how easy is now for Tesla to make inroads into India?
So, see, actually, this policy is to attract bigger players into the Indian market. So it's in line with the Indian government aim in making India a manufacturing hub. So it's not only the manufacturer for EV companies, it's also to the components and the other OEMs who are going to come to India, because as you rightly said, within 3 years, it has to be the local sourcing of components has to be capped at 25%, and in 5 years, it has to go up to 50%. So by bringing in this policy, they're attracting more foreign players into the country and even the component manufacturers into the country. So it's going to bring in more of technology into India. It's going to bring in more of investment into India. It's going to generate more employment for the youths in India. Definitely, it's a positive step for the government to go ahead with it. And as you rightly said, the main beneficiary would be probably Tesla, if I can name one company to it, because they manufacture high-end cars. So it's basically aimed at the manufacturers of high-end cars, because it's capped at the vehicles which you are importing is $35,000. So $35,000 typically means the ex-showroom cost of the car would be somewhere in the range of 40 to 45 lakhs. So it will not affect the lower end or the mass segment of the market. That's what typically this policy says. So it's in the right direction. Only thing is that the manufacturers who are already there in India, I think they should get a level playing field, because they've already invested in the country when this policy was not there. So probably there's something which needs to be given to them also, so that even they can import cars in this policy, and the investment which they have done earlier, they can be treated retrospect with this policy.
Good morning, Mr. Giridhar. This is Kartik Malhotra joining in from the studio. I just want to understand what happens now to Tesla's plans of launching a $20,000 electric vehicle specially designed for India. There is obviously no incentive now for a cheaper EV made specifically for India to be imported into India. Am I right?
Morning, Kartik. You're absolutely right. So it's basically aimed at the higher end segment. It's not for the mass segment. So if Tesla is wanting to come to India, they'll have to bring in vehicles which are above $35,000. So typically in the range of 45 lakh rupees, they're going to have this segment. And but this policy is actually speaking is a good policy for new players who are wanting to come to India, because straight away you can import up to 40,000 vehicles in 5 years. So typically 8,000 vehicles per year you can import. And for first 2 years, practically speaking, you're not paying, you're on the level playing field, or even you are better than the local manufacturers in India. You pay only 15% duty, whereas for others, it is 70 to 100%. And one thing more which they've done in this policy is that they have introduced a check and balance system for these new entrants in the country, wherein they have the bank guarantee thing. So it is not a testing mode for companies to come test Indian market, and in case they don't feel the conditions conducive for their vehicles, they can run away, leaving the customers and the dealers high and dry. So there's a bank guarantee thing to it, and the difference between 15% and to 70 or 100% of the duties which they save, I think that's the difference that the bank guarantee they're going to pay to the Indian government.
Okay, and we are only talking Tesla right now, but help us understand, are there other companies also which are likely to benefit? I understand Vietnamese VinFast is not likely to be a beneficiary because it has super luxury cars, or it has cars which are priced well below the $35,000 mark. What about Chinese firms like BYD? Is this going to be applicable even for cars that get imported from China, fully built cars imported from China?
I'm not too sure about that. I think, again, China is one place wherein the Indian government has put in a lot of restrictions for the manufacturers coming in from China. And see, this policy is basically aiming to bring in the new players into the market. So BYD is already there in the Indian market. I don't
But not
think
making in
they're going to
India, sir, as
benefit.
far as I understand. It's not making in India yet. So then is there going to be further pressure for BYD also to start manufacturing in India? And BYD just being a placeholder, any other electric vehicle manufacturer out there?
So I can't remember any other name apart from Tesla for to be the direct beneficiary for this policy. But see,
Okay.
overall, you need to understand the penetration of electric in especially in passenger vehicle is approximately 2% for last year. So though it has grown by close to 115% over 2022 versus 2023, but it's still only 2%. And out of that 2% also, so the electric vehicles which were sold in 2023, there were around about 83,000 vehicles which were sold. And if you see the segment wherein which was above 40 lakhs, it was not even 5 to 6%. So there were less than 5,000 vehicles for the entire year which were sold in this particular segment in India.
Okay. Mr. Giridhar, before I let you go, you touched upon how this is an incentive which is perhaps far greater than many domestic auto companies in EV space enjoy. How is it then a fair play and a fair field for Indian companies who had forayed into EVs, although you rightly pointed out the EV penetration is not as much as Indian government would like it to be. But then many Indian companies likes of M&M and Tata Motors, how are they looking at this policy?
See, so that's what I said. So it's not going to affect the mass manufacturing companies like M&M or Tata, or even the Marutis, for the likes of Marutis who just entering the electric segment. So it's not going to affect the mass segment. It's going to only affect the segment which is the luxury segment, vehicles which are priced above 40 lakh rupees.
All right, Mr. Giridhar, thank you very much, sir, for joining in, for taking time out. We, of course, are tracking all those details here of the new EV policy that aims to get in more foreign players into the country. Remember, the policy has been rolled out by the government that looks to incentivize global players likes of Tesla could be making an entry into India very soon.